Welcome to Supply Chain Now, the voice of global supply chain. Supply Chain Now focuses on the best in the business for our worldwide audience, the people, the technologies, the best practices, and today's critical issues, the challenges and opportunities. Stay tuned to hear from those making global business happen right here on Supply Chain Now.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Scott Luton here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's show. On today's show, we're going to be diving into the perspective of the now generation. We're going to be talking with a dynamic duo of students that are poised to do really big things in industry. Stay tuned for an extraordinary conversation. I'm joined today by a very special co-host, Dr. Travis Tokar, Professor of Supply Chain Management with the Neely School of Business at Texas Christian University. Dr. Tokar, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, thanks for carving time out. These are some of our favorite conversations. Not only do we get to spend time with members of the now generation that are already making their impact felt, but with folks that are really charged with inspiring and helping them down their journey. In this case, at Texas Christian University. So, thanks for your time here today.
Absolutely.
So, all right. We're going to be introducing our guests in just a minute. And listeners, Travis here is kind of a pseudo co-host, right? He's going to be asking some of the questions. He's going to be answering some of the questions. But nevertheless, we're going to enjoy our conversation here. So let's introduce the two stars of the show. I want to introduce Ann C. O'Connor, who's a senior at Texas Christian University, who will be graduating with a degree in supply chain and value management. Also, working towards a minor in global business and get this, a certificate in consultative sales. Joining Ann will be Jacob Mutscher, a senior at TCU who's going to be graduating with a double major, supply chain and value management and business information systems. Let's welcome in Ann and Jacob. All right, Ann, Jacob, how are we doing today?
Doing great.
Thanks for having us.
It is so wonderful. As I mentioned, these are some of my favorite conversations. I love a little bit of the passion that y'all both already kind of displayed in some of our warm-up conversations, and looking forward to diving in a lot more. So I want to start, though. Let's level set a little bit. And I want to ask each of y'all, including my esteemed co-host, Dr. Tokar, where are you from, right? Where are you from? And give us a little bit of flavor, a little anecdote maybe about your upbringing. So, Ann, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'm from Newport Beach, California, which is a beautiful city, a lot different than Texas. I grew up on the beach, loving the beach. And a little fun fact about Newport, it's actually headquartered, Chipotle, their headquarters is set there, which is pretty interesting for a small town. So I'm pretty good.
It is. And give me one, so beyond Chipotle, what's one other food dish that you grew up with would be an inseparable part of your upbringing?
This is pretty niche, but there's a French bakery shop that's very local to where I'm from that was called Bone that everyone I knew in town would always go for coffee, pastries, sandwiches. Bone Bakery. That's what I grew
Oh,
up on.
man.
Probably every single day I would have when I was in high school.
Love it. And I bet really good coffee.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing Newport Beach, California. And okay, let's move around to Jacob. Jacob, what about you? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town called Midland, Michigan, which is about 2 hours north of Detroit, and it's really known for being headquarters for Dow Chemical Company.
Okay. Outstanding. Now, you said 2 hours north of Detroit. Is that right?
Yep.
So did you ever venture in, maybe Detroit pizza is prevalent throughout Michigan? Is that the case?
Yeah, one of my favorite pizza joints is called Jet's Pizza, and it has really good Detroit-style pizza. And so didn't go to Detroit too often, but there's a lot of places around the state that have really good pizza.
Man, I could eat pizza every day. Thank you, Jacob, for helping me ruin my diet today. But I love these little anecdotes about where you're from, especially, of course, related to food. So welcome in, Jacob. And hey, Travis, you can't get out of the question. So let's learn, where did you grow up, and give us a little flavor too.
Oh man, I grew up a lot of places actually. My dad was an agriculture specialist. We moved around quite a bit, including other countries. But we settled in Fayetteville, Arkansas, when I was about 15, and so that's very much home. And To this day, actually, my family still lives there, and love to get back and visit when I can. But yeah, it's an interesting place. You've got Walmart, JB Hunt, Tyson Foods, all headquartered up there. And I'm guessing, being part of the supply chain world, you've had many conversations with folks who've passed through that area. So yeah, it's a neat place.
It really is. In fact, I was just sharing, we spent some time with Dr. Fugit and the University of
Yeah, yeah,
Arkansas there. So
yeah.
it is a really cool part of the country. Now, Fayetteville, Arkansas, if I heard you right, you set up shop there when you were about 15 years old. What was one
Yeah.
of your haunts or restaurant joints? What'd you love as a kid?
Oh man. So we had moved to Fayetteville from California. So like Ann was saying, Newport Beach, my grandparents were in the Torrance area, Redondo Beach, and had spent some time there. And when we moved to Fayetteville, barbecue was kind of a new thing for us. I mean, there were a couple of barbecue places, but never like true, good Southern barbecue. And so I was just blown away. I just any barbecue I could sink my teeth into anywhere up there was going to be high on my list. And so yeah, it was a fun experience.
I love that. I think we were separated at birth. I think we think a lot alike. I could tell by your answer there. So Travis, Jacob, and Ann, great to have you here. Let's get down to business a little bit. I could talk about food for way too long, but let's talk supply chain, of course. And Ann, I want to circle back to you. You're poised, you and Jacob both. As we record this here today, you're graduating just around the corner. You're well equipped with some incredible degrees. You can be dangerous out there in industry. I love that. Why supply chain for you?
Yeah, so I chose supply chain because I really liked how it gave me access to all different like areas of the firm. And so you're not only just in one department all the time, you have your hands kind of in every aspect of the business and you get to see the product really follow through. So from manufacturing all the way to the customer and then now with the circular supply chain coming back to you. So I liked how I almost feel like I'm always on my toes instead of always just going to be stuck in one department. I could really move around within the supply chain or even within, let's say in the procurement department, there's a lot of different things I can do. So I'm really excited the fact that I have a lot of exposure to the entire firm while still having that excitement of getting to do a lot of different things.
What a great answer, Ann. I think of systems level thinking comes to mind, right? And I think a lot of folks and a lot of hiring managers and a lot of leaders would wish their people had a better sense of upstream and downstream. What takes place. And Ann, I couldn't have said it better. That's a great advantage of being a supply chain expert and being a part of supply chain and lots of options with your career. So excellent stuff there. Jacob, same question to you. Why supply chain?
Yeah, so I kind of interested in supply chain because it's both people oriented and there's also a lot of data involved with it, both of which are two of my passions and interests. So I kind of like the ability to talk and interact with people, but also back that up with a lot of data. And I also like the idea that you can work on a specific problem, but then step back and see the bigger picture. And so there's a big breadth within supply chain. So there's a lot of different fields you can get yourself interested in. And so for me, it's interesting to see how that all interconnects and winds. And for me, it's a great way to explore different areas. And so if I find my niche or my specific area of supply chain I can dive more deeply into that.
Love it. All right. So Travis, does this square with what you hear from other students? And what'd you hear Ann and Jacob both say?
Yeah, what they shared is pretty common, although what I get most, at least from freshmen, sophomores, is, well, what is supply chain? Most incoming students have never heard of it. And by the time that they do, you see some light bulbs come on, kind of like Em was just saying. You have a chance to see all the different functional areas of the firm and how they come together. I mean, ultimately, companies exist to provide goods and services to their customers. You can't do that without the efforts of every functional area. And so what we do in supply chain is really bring all those efforts and all that energy to fruition in a sense. And so, yeah, it's one of our big selling points for students is the types of projects you get to work on. It's not just moving boxes or buying materials or whatever it is that people might conceive of initially. It is very cross-functional, which means that you're never bored. You'll always find something that fits your interests. It's just a great opportunity for people looking to do something in business and maybe don't know exactly where they want to fit in initially.
Well said. Well said. And, hey, we're partial around here, but supply chain makes it happen. And it also provides these opportunities, as Ann and Jacob both touched on the big picture, which is always appealing, to be part of the big picture and kind of understand the big picture, people and problems and data, as Jacob also touched on. So thank all three of y'all for weighing in on why supply chain. Okay, so I want to shift gears just a bit here. And so, Ann, I want to circle back to you. If as you survey global business, global supply chain right now, and you think about a topic or two or a trend or development, really your pick. What's a couple of things you're tracking more than others right now?
hmm One of the biggest things I've been looking into recently and seeing a lot of news on is omni-channel and the future of omni-channel and supply chain. And so, especially with the pandemic, the shift to like e-commerce, and they call it like phygital, like distribution and shopping centers. And so I've been seeing a lot on that and how a lot of companies are moving toward maybe some pop-up fulfillment centers for the holiday season, or pay and pick up curbside, or the in last mile delivery improvements with drones. And so the whole omni-channel retailing sector I thought has been really interesting. Another thing I've been kind of tracking with the Ukraine Russia conflict too is just like how that's disrupting some supply chains, especially in the agricultural industry. I was doing some research on it for a different class, and I found out that Russia actually supplies a lot of this industry's agricultural products and like
Mm.
fertilizers and everything. And we're seeing some food shortages that are happening, and so that's going to have a great impact as the conflict goes on. So just seeing how, even though it's not happening on like the United States soil, how everything is impacting us internationally with that conflict as well. So those are two of the things I've most recently just been following.
Man, we could dedicate a 6-hour show to both of those topics. And Travis, I'm gonna get you to weigh in. One of my thoughts on the first topic that Ann shared, it is truly amazing to see what retailers have done over the last couple of years, and rolled with the punch after punch after punch to try to meet consumers and give them what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. So that whole omni-channel and digital transformation of supply chains has been fascinating. And then secondly, so much going on and a lot of heartbreak going on, of course, in Ukraine and beyond due to Russia's actions. But, I was reading just the other day as countries look to send artillery pieces, a wide variety of artillery pieces to Ukraine, the supply chain and logistics there. It is absolutely fascinating. But Travis, weigh in on those first two observations from Ann there.
Yeah, the e-commerce piece is something that everyone's scrambling to figure out in one way, shape, or form in retail specifically. But I've been reading a lot about the impact it's having on real estate and warehousing, for example, and how firms are in effort to support their e-commerce goals and efforts, having to find space for new facilities, the cost associated with that. You, Trying to plan out where these are supposed to go. It's interesting how this transition in the way that people shop is driving all kinds of challenges in the supply chain that most wouldn't think about initially. So that's been kind of interesting to see.
Agreed. And of course, all four of us are consumers. I was sitting down and talking with some industrial real estate folks the other day, and of course, that's an explosive market. But I read, I wish I could figure out who I could attribute it to. I was reading a Wall Street Journal piece about how some communities are pushing back on facilities coming into their neighborhood. But one of the pros in this article said that as consumers, we all want that product same day, next day, as long as it's being fulfilled by a town across the state or across the county or something. And I was like, how true is that? We want our cake and eat it too. But nevertheless, Travis, thank you for that. Let's circle back to Jacob. So, Jacob, same question to you. What's a couple things you're tracking across global supply chain, much like Ann shared?
Yeah, so one of the things I've been tracking is just-in-time shipping and how that's kind of changed due to the fact of COVID. Before COVID, a lot of companies and retailers were trying to streamline their business processes and hold the least amount of safety stock as possible. But COVID really disrupted that. As supply chains were disrupted, you saw a lot of stock outs. One notable is toilet paper. And so you kind of can see an industry shift, almost carry more and more safety stock. And that's kind of also coupled With a second trend I've been looking at is over in California with the ports there and how there's actually a backup of cargo there, how there's irregular supply from China due to some of their COVID restrictions, and then more COVID restrictions and labor restrictions are causing plants and different ports to not actually fulfill as much cargo needs. So those two coupling are I'm seeing a shift almost to increase safety stock to help meet consumer needs as demand is more irregular along with supply. Interesting to kind of see how industry is almost shifting from just in time to a lot more safety stock.
Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see how members of the now generation, as you get in the industry, like Jacob, you and Ann, are going to change that and change, in some cases, some archaic approaches at how global supply chain works. So it's going to be really exciting to see. But Travis, I bet my hunch, I don't know, and on one hand, toilet tissue is kind of the gift that keeps on giving because it really helped folks kind of better understand supply chain a little bit. On the other hand, man, if I hear toilet tissue one more time, toilet paper one more time in a supply chain conversation, I'm gonna lose my mind. But Travis, what's your take there on what Jacob shared?
Yeah, I think he's spot on in terms of the question. This is something I've presented to my students several times now, and told them this is job security for you guys going forward. So when I was in school studying supply chain, the mantra was replace inventory with information. And we were in the midst of focusing on hyper efficiency, trying to drive cost out of the supply chain. And of course, inventory is cost. And the more you could replace that with information systems to know where it is or to move it more effectively, the less inventory you could get by with. Well, we've seen now, thanks to this hopefully once in a lifetime experience of a major catastrophe, there's not a lot of buffer in the system when things like that happen. And so you're seeing pushback and you're seeing companies begin to question, was that the right decision? In some ways, well, yeah, it's what's responsible for the drop in consumer prices that we've seen over the decades. I mean, we all get lower and lower and lower prices on the stuff that we buy and use every day. However, yeah, when something happens, it disappears and it disappears fast. So what's the answer going forward? Do companies go back to that model that we spent decades trying to create? Or do we come up with something different that's got some buffer built in? How much should there be? How long should we hold buffer before we go back? Or do we ever go back? There's just lots of questions right now that need answering. And that's, I think, what this generation is going to be tackling for the years to come.
So Travis, very well said, very well said. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the change that Jacob and Ann and other members of this now generation are going to be driving from the very first day they step into their role. I should also mention both Ann and Jacob have an interesting combination of their degrees. So Ann, supply chain, global business, and some consultative sales. Man, that's going to be a dangerous combination. And then on Jacob's side, as he mentioned, supply chain, but that business information systems, the data and the IT, the technology there, that's also a powerful combination. So this is going to be really neat to see where you both go from here. All right. So Travis, I want to circle back to you. So as we were getting this conversation kind of teed up, we were talking with Dr. Morgan Swink, one of your colleagues there at TCU, and he was telling me about a trip he had planned. I think you and he and maybe other members, a TCU delegation perhaps, visited Iowa, where you were having a lot of these conversations, probably touched on some of the things you just shared, where you were all facing a ton of change and challenges and then some across global supply chain. Can you talk to us a little bit about what took place? What was the event? And give us a couple takeaways from your discussions there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the event was a doctoral symposium for PhD students in supply chain management. And it's a group of schools that traditionally have a more of a logistics focus, I guess you could say, to their studies, their research focus. And at least historically, that was the case. But a great group, and yeah, it rotates year to year from who hosts it. This year happened to be at Iowa State, and I know I shouldn't talk too many nice things about a Big 12 rival, but great place, beautiful campus, and just a great group of faculty up there too. A lot of good things going on there in Ames. But yeah, we met, and all the programs bring a number of their doctoral students, and the purpose is to really discuss what's on the horizon for them as students, and then early on in their career as faculty members. So there's a little bit of discussion of research methods, and there's some other topics related to building your career. But what we enjoy, at least as a faculty member, talking about the most is just what's going on in the world. What are you seeing? What are you thinking? What are the types of research questions that you hope to address in the days to come? So yeah, it was a lot of fun to get a chance to interact. We don't have a PhD program at TCU. However, opportunities like this give us the chance to engage and just hear what's the latest and what's got people interested. So of course, the pandemic and the response, like we were discussing earlier, came up, and what's on the horizon. How do we address some of the challenges that we're seeing right now with infrastructure? Ports, you name it. I mean, just everyone's feeling these effects. And so in supply chain, the research side of the supply chain world, we're looking for ways to maybe address some of this stuff.
Love it. Love it. Deeds, not words. And by the way, did you have any local dishes up in Ames, Iowa?
We did eat at a nice restaurant downtown at a nice view, but I'll tell you the best food I had was at this British pub, believe it or not. I think it was called the Plucky Duck, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
A friend of mine knew about it. So I had fish and chips in Ames, Iowa. It was pretty darn good, actually. So
Hey, it continues to tell us time and time again, never make assumptions. Never make assumptions. Who would have thunk?
that's
Great
right.
fish and chips in Ames, Iowa. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you for sharing. And of course, best wishes to Dr. Swink and his family. We look forward to reconnecting with him soon. Let's circle back to Ann and Jacob. Ann, I'm going to start with you here. TCU seems to be like one heck of a place to go to school, and certainly one heck of a place for folks interested in supply chain management. But hey, I want to hear from you. What makes TCU such a cool place to go to school?
Yeah, well, first off, go Frogs always, best school on the planet. What I love especially about TCU is the school spirit, but also the like group dynamics that people have. So a lot of times in a lot of the classes, we'll have group projects, and you can just tell every student there wants to work really hard, and we all push each other to be our best. But then the teachers really have a hand in our success as well. So they're always giving us help and mentoring us and making sure that we're doing our best and providing us with the skills that we need. Throughout my degree at TCU and every class I took here at the Neely School of Business, I feel like I've learned so much that has added to my professional development and my personal development as a student. And I feel really equipped to go off into the real world with presentation skills, Excel skills, essay skills. And so I think just as a whole, not only is it a great place to meet people and to make long lasting relationships, but that you can really tell the professors and the faculty and the administration they want you to succeed and they truly care about you, which is what really makes it special here.
Man, wow, there's so much to unpack there. A lot of passion. Clearly, a big emphasis on communication skills, which is timeless, right? It's timeless and universal. And I believe you. I think you're rip roaring and ready to go. And it's going to be really cool to see what y'all do from here and really just the weeks and months ahead. Jacob, same question. Tell us about why you like TCU as much, especially for folks interested in supply chain management.
Yeah, so one of the things I really appreciate about TCU is that small school feel. A lot of your classes around 30 to 40 students, so you really get a personal interaction. And Neely School of Business really feels like I'm in a big family. And one of the things I really appreciate with the supply chain program is really starting with your junior year, you actually run a cohort class. So all the people who are participating in the supply chain degree actually take a 1 credit course class together. And so you really get to know each other, know some of the faculty, and really go through your whole supply chain degree together. So it really helps with group projects, you get to familiarize yourself with everybody. And then from the faculty standpoint, we have some amazing faculty. They're always willing to help you. A lot of them have great field experience, so they come from the working career. They've taken time to actually spend time with students. And so it's great. They're always ready to meet with you. And something I've also liked is you learn a lot of hard skills in the Neely School of Business with supply chain, but there's a lot of real world applications. So a lot of times outside businesses, you'll come in and actually do projects with them where you actually get to interact with outside experts and actually test the skills you worked on throughout your supply chain career. So it's really a great ample flexibility about how utilizing different skills through communication, interacting, and actually practicing those skills.
All right. So what I heard Ann and Jacob both say, Travis, is, hey, take that, Iowa State. Right. So Travis, weigh in on maybe what you heard there. And as a follow-up to that, I'd love to get kind of one of your favorite recent moments in the classroom, per se.
Yeah, one of the things that I've enjoyed most about being at TCU is I think what they both brought up, the relatively small class sizes, the personal engagement. Not that that's not possible at other schools, but of course, when you're taking class with 70, 80, 100 other students, it's going to be harder to get to know the faculty. It's hard for the faculty to get to know the students. Here at TCU, our class sizes tend to be quite a bit smaller than that by design, and gives us a chance to get to know the people in our classes, for students to engage with faculty, and just makes for a very rich experience.
So, speaking of those experiences, all the discussions you get to have, as I mentioned, I love these. I get a chance to kind of, peer into the brain and the passions of bright members of the now generation leaders like Jacob and Ann. Travis, you get to do this all the time. I'm so jealous. What's, out of all those experiences, those discussions and inside the classroom, outside the classroom, what's a recent moment that really maybe reminded you of why you do what you do?
Gosh, I had a student come by my office. I guess it was last week, and she had asked me to write a letter of recommendation for her. She was looking for some interns for the summer and internship opportunities, I should say. And she got ended up with two offers, and she just wanted to share that. And she also was asking me for some insight on how she should which direction she should go, what opportunities she might want to take. But more than anything, it was just really, it was just so great to hear from her about the opportunity that she'd had, and the fact that she wanted to just share that news with me, having been a very small part in that process. It's things like that in the midst of grading stacks of papers or writing out exams, you're like, oh wait, yeah, no, this is why I'm here. This is why I really enjoy what I do. So it was a very well timed as we approach finals to be able to step away from all the classroom grind for just a second, and like, wow, this is this is why I enjoy what I do. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Travis. And I bet, is it fair to say that in your experience that the students will keep coming back and keep checking in and probably find ways of supporting TCU and maybe even the supply chain management program, huh?
Yeah, I've got lunch lined up next week with a student from 5 or 6 years ago. That tends to happen over the summer. It's one of my favorite things, is a chance to just keep up, hear where people are where they're going, what they're doing, how their lives have changed over time. I've been invited to weddings, and I get
Wow.
pictures when babies are born. I mean, it's just that's the greatest thing about my job is that I've played a small part in people's lives, and I get to keep up with that over time. It's kind of like Jacob said, the family experience and feeling it. It's very, very real, and makes this just a really rewarding career. So
Mm.
yeah.
I love that. That's part of stuff that makes my day. I mean, really, it brings such purpose to it. And family, that's the term. That's the maybe the word of the episode here. Circling back to Ann and Jacob, pre-show we were talking about the Renaissance and Eureka moments. Last few years certainly haven't been the Renaissance, but I would argue that there's always good news if you go looking for it. And it's really, I tell you, there's so much good news and so many great stories of achievement and innovation, real innovation, right? Action and overcoming obstacles, whether it's products, whether it's some of the omni-channel developments that Ann was speaking to earlier. Hey, the workforce, look at what the global supply chain workforce and beyond, of course, healthcare and many others, look what they've done to keep things moving and where a lot of the population is sitting at home and getting stuff delivered to the doorstep. It is really remarkable if you can kind of step outside of what the pandemic has been. So lots of good news. But my question is, what's been a eureka moment for each of you in these last few years? So let's switch up a little bit. Jacob, I want to start with you. You're going to be the Otis Nixon today, right? The famous Atlanta Braves leadoff hitter from years ago. So, Jacob, what's been a good eureka moment for you in recent years?
Oh boy, there's been a lot of big eureka moments, both inside and outside academia for me. I guess I'd say one of the big eureka moments for me, I guess, would be my junior year, second semester, taking my logistics course. And that was the real first supply chain course that I really delved into, and really I learned a lot in that class and really challenged me because it got aspects of Excel and some simulations we worked in. And what really interested me most about that class is that I got to see the big picture of supply chain. I got to see what it means to actually deliver goods from point A to point B, and where it takes you from the beginning point of producing a good to the end point of actually delivering to a consumer. And I got to see that all throughout half of a semester. And so that was something I think was really big for me, because for most of my time, I thought supply chain was purely just the transportation of goods. I didn't realize the more upstream and downstream aspects of supply chain. So me personally, just be able to see that big picture and all the different components that actually go into supply chain really just broadened my perspective of it.
I love that, Jacob. What a great talk about a big eureka moment. And coming back to you, upstream, downstream, reverse stream, as you alluded to earlier. The re-economy is billions and billions and billions. I'm not sure the latest market estimation, but that's a great thing too. And of course, supply chain, again, reverse logistics and returns processing and management, all of that falls under the umbrella. And that's really cool. A lot of cool things going on there. But Ann, talking eureka moments, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say for me, it's probably more, I've had my biggest eureka moment on like professional development, personal side, going through all the internship and full-time job interviews and applications. Jacob kind of said this earlier, but TCU does a really good job of teaching those hard skills and having the real life applications. But I've learned throughout all the processes that it's the soft skills too that really help you stand out as an applicant. And even going through all those processes, it's really just making connections and relationships with people. So maybe the job wasn't for you, or that certain group you wanted to join wasn't for you, but you met people and you built relationships, and hopefully in the future you can bring value to them. So my biggest moment, I would say, Eureka wise, was just making sure that I'm bringing value and soft skills to people, because in the end it's all about relationship building, because people can learn any of those hard skills whenever, but if you can bring positivity, soft skills, and charisma and have that relationship with people, it's really going to make all the difference in the world.
So well said, man. I wish I had your perspective as I was wrapping up college. Both of y'all, really, because relationships, they matter so much, and there's all kinds of different layers and levels, and it's tough. As my dear partner in crime here at Supply Chain Now says, Greg White, it's tough to build a relationship in the middle of a pandemic. You've got to be nurturing them before you need it, or as Harvard McKay says, you got to dig your well before you're thirsty, which I think is one of my favorite sayings. So well said, Ann, and I love your appreciation for relationships, based, especially where you are in your journey. But Travis, first, I'll tell you, Jacob and Ann, these savvy individuals, light years ahead. I don't know about you, but light years ahead of where I was. That's got to add to your appreciation for what you do and your sense of mission. But what's been a eureka moment for you?
Gosh, I think seeing over the last several months or a couple years, the ways in which the pandemic has played out has just reiterated how interconnected everything is globally. It's something I've always enjoyed about supply chain, especially having lived overseas a few times and having some sense of what happens other places affects us here. But you lose the appreciation for that over time. You begin to take things for granted, and just to see how events happening half a world away impact what's on my store shelf or the price I pay for something or the availability of goods and services. It's just a reminder, an important reminder of just the connectedness of everything. And what, for me, not just the access to the stuff that I want, but it reminds me that what we do in this field matters tremendously. And I try to impart this to my students every semester, where talk about, you're going to be working in industry or for a big company, and maybe you're crunching away on a computer, maybe you're negotiating contracts, maybe you're making stuff move, and at times it's tempting to think that okay, that's really all I'm doing, but it's so very much bigger than that. What we do in this field impacts people's lives in ways we can't even imagine, and it's not clear on the surface. So I try to impart that because it gives us a sense of purpose and of accomplishing something for the greater good. I think our field really has a lot to offer in that respect that goes overlooked, and it makes what we do a very rich thing.
Jacob, man, that just about took my breath away. And I mean that with all sincerity. I mean that. Dr. Travis Tokar, hey, every practitioner everywhere, regardless of where they are in their journey, needs to hear that, right? Because we all have those days where maybe, Jacob, you brought up Excel spreadsheets a couple of times. We've all done battle with Excel spreadsheets where you look up and the whole day's gone and you don't, and you can lose sight of the impact you're having in the bigger picture. So Travis, amen. Well said. And I look forward to sharing that with our global ecosystem for sure. I should go back up to two quick clarifications. First off, Iowa State, I'm just picking on you. Hey, no, just messing with you a little while ago. I'm sure you got great programs. I'm sure we'll hear some from some folks in Ames, but it's all in good fun. And then secondly, kind of along the lines of what you're sharing here, Travis, as consumers, as we take off our practitioner hat and we, kind of look at things just as consumers, inexpensive prices, cheap prices, they have repercussions. Other things that we want and demand and expect, they have repercussions. In global supply chains right now, as all three of y'all have spoken to, they're fighting through some of the things that consumers expect here in 2022. Okay, so I want to, this is one of my favorite parts here because we get to talk about the really cool things that Ann and Jacob have lined up. They already got it lined up. I was going in, I had a job in college. The Air Force was getting me right after I graduated. Well, actually, a couple months after I graduated, Ann and Jacob. So I didn't get a chance to jump right into the private sector and do some cool things. Spent a lot of great years with some dear friends of mine in the Air Force doing some data analysis work. But man, what y'all are doing. So Ann, let's start with you. You're jumping right out and starting a new role with Dell Technologies. Tell us what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so I'm joining Dell Technologies in Austin, Texas in their supply chain development program. So I'm going to do a 3-year rotation between operations, logistics, and procurement, and I'll get my placement within the next few weeks. But right now I'm going in as a product analyst, and I'm really excited just to get to learn and grow at Dell.
That is wonderful. I've heard a lot of good things. We've managed to interview some folks from Dell over the years, and they all, to a person, speak about the culture there at Dell. And have you already gotten kind of a sense of that through your conversations?
Yes, it's a very people-oriented culture, which I love, and everyone just wants to, like I said earlier, build relationships with each other, and everyone pushes each other to be their best and work their hardest, which I really enjoy. And I've already met a lot of the Dell team and love them and know I'm going to have some great relationships with them, and they're going to push me to be the best I can be. I'm very excited.
Wonderful. We're big fans. As I look around my home studio, I've got about 18 Dell products. So we're big fans of that company. So I look forward. It sounds like they're getting a dynamic addition to the team. So we look forward to maybe getting an update from you a few months down the road. Jacob, tell us about what you've got on tap with Frito-Lay North America.
Yeah, so I'll be working for Frito-Lay North America, headquartered in Plano, Texas. I'll be starting here in July. and I'm still waiting to hear on my placement, but hopefully it's either in the product supply or logistics transportation department. And I've actually had the opportunity to intern with them for the previous summer in their product supply field, and that was very interesting to me.
Okay, so you already kind of have taken a kind of a look under the hood, so to speak, huh?
Yep.
Well, so it's interesting as both of y'all share. You kind of already got your next steps lined out, and you're still kind of figuring out, or you're still waiting maybe to figure out some of the specifics. Travis, I'm gonna bring you in, and by the way, Jacob, congrats. Free Delay is going to get clearly a bright, capable member of the now generation. That's outstanding. Travis, as I was touched on a second ago, as the specifics of the roles are still kind of materializing, is this pretty common for how companies recruit from college campuses these days, where they kind of, look to secure the relationship and a little tip of the hat to you with the students, kind of get them, part of the organization, and then kind of define where they want to be, kind of after they get started?
I think it's a mix. I think it's a mixed bag. I think you see some companies like Ann and Jacob have experienced to say, hey, we can clearly see you are talented. We want you part of our team. We have several opportunities that could be materializing. Let's see where you fit best. And then there's others that come in with a very defined role and say, this is the role, this is the location, and they're looking for somebody who fits that. So it can work both ways.
So, so Anne, one additional for you and Jacob, one additional follow-up question. We've kind of talked about what your next steps are with who, an idea of what you're going to be doing. But if you were to, kind of just look at industry as a whole, kind of what we were talking about a second ago, is there one aspect of impact or change or something you want to tackle in the industry? If so, tell us what it is and why it appeals to you.
hmm I think for sure in my career, I definitely want to be able to have communication internationally. So working with international teams, maybe that's talking with international suppliers, making sure that they're getting all their products, and just working cross-functionally with different stakeholders. That's pretty much my goal. Tying my global business in there with that degree. Yeah, just my one of my things I really want to do in industry is get to work in that international and have a hand in maybe moving around and living in new places and getting to work with those teams.
Love it. I love it. I bet you get the opportunity to do just that. And you're going to have to report back all your new food finds, and as you make your travels. Okay, that's the deal. All right, Jacob, same
Absolutely.
question. All right, it's a deal. So, Jacob, same question for you. Is there something specific in industry you want to do, and why?
Yeah, so my answer is very similar to Anne's, as I had the opportunity to study abroad after my freshman year right before COVID hit in London. And that was just a phenomenal experience for me. Ever since then, it's really piqued my interest to have my feet wet in the global supply chain aspect. And one of those areas is just making sure we can get cost effective products out to individuals around the world. So I've seen the real big impact of globalization and help improve people's standard of living. And so that's something I hope to bring and impart to other parts of the world, is just consumer products that we enjoy here in the United States at a low effective cost, and bring that to other countries to people and to enjoy.
Wonderful, Jacob. That total landed cost sounds like it's going to be a regular part of your future. Uh, Travis, you got to love what you hear here. Passion, drive, impact. Some of the themes I'm hearing. Um, touch on that. What'd you hear between what Ann and Jacob both shared?
Yeah, I think the global focus is appealing to a lot of students. Particularly in the impact that you can have on the quality of life of people around the world. I think that we all recognize that we've been very blessed here in the United States with an incredible standard of living that is not the norm historically. I mean, if you think back, it's only in the last 100 years or so that lives have been this long, lives have been this rich and comfortable. That didn't happen by accident, and a lot of systems went into place to helping to bring that about. So I find a lot of students wanting to find ways to help spread that to other places that aren't so fortunate, that don't have access to the things that we do. And so, yeah, to Jacob's point in supply chain, what we do matters. Like we were talking about earlier, and the access that we create to goods and services at more and more affordable prices absolutely can change the quality of life for people that otherwise wouldn't be in such a great shape. So to the extent that we're able to provide avenues for students to link what they do to those types of effects, or help them to see that, like, on a day-to-day basis, you may not recognize it, but the things that you're doing contribute to that. I think it really just resonates, and then students in their awesome creativeness go and find ways to engage in that even deeper and even further.
Yes, completely agree. And I love uh, so many of folks that are entering the workforce now are asking the question why. And the 5 whys. If you ever heard of that, it's driving so much change and good change. And as really all three of y'all touched on, the global supply chain profession is in a unique position to do something about so many of the issues of our day. And it comes with a serious charge and responsibility to do just that. Deeds, not words. Okay.
Mhm.
So as we start to wrap here, uh, Dr. Travis Tokar, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you've got a crystal ball around there. It's a lot more accurate than mine. What's one thing that maybe our listeners can expect from a supply chain perspective or global business perspective in the second half of 2022 and beyond?
My gosh. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin, because I think I've had some real successes in making some calls as of late, and I've had some major whiffs as well. So I hesitate to go on record saying much of anything. But I'm looking at the landscape right now, seeing. I think Ann alluded to earlier some of the global conflicts that are taking place, and um various struggles with infrastructure, with shipping, with manufacturing, like the computer chip shortage and things. I'm a bit um pessimistic that the worst of things is behind us in terms of shortages and in terms of price increases. I think that we're going to continue to see that persist for a little while. Not to say that certain things might not get better here and there, but there's still challenges to be solved. And so, yeah, I think that this next year we're going to continue to see a lot of what we've been dealing with already, and hopefully, those begin to kind of wane. But I think it's going to be slower than we'd all like to see happen.
Mm, well said. I generally agree with you as well. We still got some tough hurdles to get through to get firmly entrenched, from my take, in the post-pandemic environment. And of course, it's important that we all get there together and we learn as much the good lessons and the bad lessons that the last few years has taught us, not just as a global profession, but as, frankly, as humanity, right? And I'm hoping some of those lessons stick for a very long time. All right. So Ann and Jacob and Travis, a delightful conversation. I really, these types of conversations are energizing. If our listeners are anything like me, gets them ready to run through like the walls behind us here. This is why we do this. So, Ann, I'll start with you. Tell us, for folks that want to learn more and hear more of your take on all things supply chain and then some, how can listeners connect with you?
Yeah, they're more than welcome to feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just look me up, my name, Ann O'Connor. I should come up under TCU, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone about anything.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we look forward to hearing about your next steps with our friends at Dell. And Jacob, how about you?
Yep. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Jacob Mutscher, and I'll feel free to talk to you about any more of these topics.
It's just that easy. Jacob Mutscher, the pride of Midland, Michigan, and Ann O'Connor, the pride of Newport Beach, California. It's been a pleasure connecting with both of y'all. I'm looking forward to kind of following news as you begin your careers in earnest. Not taking anything away from what you've been doing as you've been matriculating through TCU. I know both of y'all have been really active in the community and the landscape there, but looking forward to next steps. All right, so Dr. Travis Tokar, how can folks connect with you and TCU?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a good way. I'm not the most active LinkedIn user, but I certainly do get the messages, and we'll see anything that comes through. The best way to reach me is just my TCU email, travis.tokar@tcu.edu.
Wonderful. It is just that easy. Well, this has been, again, I really appreciate y'all's time. A fun conversation, informative, inspiring in many respects. And I appreciate all three of y'all for joining us. So, again, Ann C. O'Connor, soon to be with Dell. Thanks for your time, Ann.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And then Jacob Mutscher, soon to be with Frito-Lay North America. Thanks for your time here today.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
You bet. And hey, Travis, again, really appreciate what you and your fellow faculty members do I mean, this is in many ways not taking anything away from Ann and Jacob, but man, this is like the product of y'all's talent factory there in Fort Worth. So I'm sure you take great pride in that, and a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and particularly showcasing, our amazing talent that comes out of our program.
It's the name of the game, and it's going to be changing the game. So thanks so much, Travis. Listeners, hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. Inspiring, really inspiring, informative, innovative. It's got to make you feel really good about not just the future of supply chain, but again, this is the now generation. These folks are already making an impact, a strong impact on global business. On behalf of our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, this is Scott Luton challenging all of our listeners. Hey, do good, give forward, and be the change. With that said, we'll see you next time right back here on Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being a part of our Supply Chain Now community. Check out all of our programming at supplychainnow.com and make sure you subscribe to Supply Chain Now anywhere you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next time on Supply Chain Now.